Are we there? Hey, we're live. We're live. Everyone do a little hi, we're live dance wave thing.
So we're not late, but we are. A minute.
It's Facebook, it's not us. It's really hard to time it perfectly. So that it's like, because you don't know what the software's going to do. You don't know if it's going to behave or not. And there's always a delay with the notifications going out anyway. So yeah, what's going to happen is, who knows? And I forgot to put it on gallery view. So I think probably live streaming then was just Pam's face, front and centre. So
you're right, there is a delay because it's just you. We're all there now.
We're all here. Emily's not joining us today. She's feeling a bit under the weather, so we've sort of left her with her emails and her client work and all that kind of thing. So I think we decided on a topic for today, which we were going to talk about repurposing content as a bit of a theme for today's call. So I think she just wanted to get out of that, really. She didn't want any difficult questions. She's just pretending to be ill.
Paul's already posted about 17 hashtags.
Oh no, there's a Pinot Pam one in there somewhere.
So how have we all been this week?
Yeah, the bank holiday, as I think we'll all agree, has thrown everybody out.
Definitely.
Just kind of didn't need it. Can we bank it and use it later in the year when we might want it?
It's this time of year, it just feels like bank holiday overkill. But then because we had like the Easter weekend, then we had the bank holiday where the Monday was a Friday.
Yeah, the VE Day one.
And then it's just like, I'm not very good with these 4-day weeks.
You have a real thing about Easter, don't you? That's your bugbear.
Yeah, it puts me in a crappy mood. But there we go. Jane, how's things been for you this week? What you've been working on? Anything exciting that people might want to know about? Any tips and things like that from the stuff you've been looking at this week?
Most of my week has actually been getting new clients ready. So it's taken up my entire week, and I've been creating lots of lovely branded images for them, and getting everything ready to go, really.
Brilliant. Are you using Canva to create those images?
No, I'm actually doing these ones in Photoshop on branded templates that Mark's created for us.
Fantastic. Yeah, so those branded templates, they really lift the content, don't they?
Definitely,
really,
yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah, it really does make a difference. And I think it's a lot of our clients, there's a little bit of a wow moment when they see it all for the first time, which is really nice. They're just sort of seeing how their social media is going to look once we get going. I think there's always a little bit of a thing there. And obviously you're kind of responsible for making sure we've processed all the information and done the research so we can go out and find the right content for them going forward as well. So you're like master of everything.
Yeah,
master of all the things.
Definitely.
What about you, Mark? Where are we at with websites? You knee deep in SEO yet?
No, still building. So no, just concentrating on a couple of sites this week, but they're both going quite well. So hopefully not too long before those two are finished. Hopefully one certainly live next week, and then not too long for the other one as well, I think. So yeah, all good.
There's some interesting colour choices coming through on the websites at the minute. Some are quite reserved still, but one in particular is like we like green anyway, obviously, but one is like real proper lime green, isn't it? Are there any trends in terms of colours at the minute? In terms of
no, I mean, obviously Amanda took the mickey out of me the other week for saying that sort of darker sites were in vogue again. So because of dark modes on everything, people are looking to have sort of darker websites, whereas perhaps 10-15 years ago it was quite norm, and then it really went sort of against the grain to have that sort of thing. But now having a sort of totally black background on your website again is quite trendy again.
Do you think we're going to start hearing people talking about use of black space rather than use of white space?
No, it'll always be white space, Christina.
Stop trying to make up words.
White space can be a colour.
I'm teasing. Oh dear. And Pam, you came across some interesting stuff this week. We were talking about Google My Business and some of the updates that they've brought out.
Yeah, it's been an interesting week. Which bit? Well, there is so much that's been going on this week. I've been doing quite a lot for the Daventry Retail Forum this week, so that's kind of been my sort of focus mainly, and Facebook shops as well. But which bit am I meant to?
Oh my God, I set you up. And
I haven't prepared for this one. So, did I not do my homework?
We only talked about it this morning. I mean, seriously. No, it was we were talking about Google's released some updates on Google My Business, and to start off with, they only went out to certain countries, and it was things like you can add gift cards and things like that, so people could buy gift cards through your Google My Business listing. But what they've done now is for restaurants, you can choose options like you can pick stuff up on curbside, or they'll do like contact-free delivery. There's like 3 options, aren't there?
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't do my full homework. Can you tell? I'm going.
Super Pam.
Let's do it live.
Paul's just said we need to make the questions easier for you.
Maybe I need alcohol. It's only water today.
Oh dear.
In Pam's defence, she and I are working on a client who we do love. They are great to work with, but they have sent us a 72-page document for us to digest on a specific part of their offering.
Yeah.
So
So
our head's kind of in that at the moment.
Yeah, I've written several pages of notes on it. So yeah, that's what I.
To be fair, we did talk about that in the same. We were talking about that, and then we talked about this Google My Business thing, which probably only that much of the conversation. And then after that, we started to talk about content planning as well, because you're looking at putting something together to give local businesses some guidance on their content planning. So I guess of that like 20-minute conversation, the bit that I've decided to mention now was like the 23.5 seconds. So but, you know,
speak about networking.
If you're not going to pay attention, pal.
We spoke about networking, going, oh dear. I'm stepping away from this now. Carry on.
And so okay, I'm going to move on to Amanda now. So Amanda, you've been in content heaven.
I have. Oh my God, there's been so much going on this week. Like I said, the bank holiday, I could really have done without it. So I'm looking at email marketing campaigns, which ties in really nicely with the video you did last night. So if anybody's in our coaching group, you're talking about sales funnels. So I was looking at funnels for email marketing campaigns and content that you would use for that, content for websites. So whilst Mark does all the creative stuff and the complex coding, I'm the wordsmith. So I've been knee deep in content writing for websites. So it's certainly keeping me busy.
Yeah. So like I said, I thought it was worthwhile us picking up on that content point, and there's loads of stuff around in terms of like the marketing gurus sharing information and stuff about how you should repurpose your content, and one blog should give you X number of days of content and all this sort of stuff. And actually, I think it's a question that comes up all the time in our coaching, or we're kind of saying to the people we coach that like we've seen that they've missed an opportunity where they haven't repurposed something. So I thought it was worth us talking about how things can be sort of divided up. So if I think about any one of our clients, okay, so we've got people on our management packages. They might be on the Orchard or the Woodland package, and we're managing their social media, but within that they get one blog a month that we write for them that's like just a 500-word article. So the process, if you like, behind that is that gets written, it goes over to Jane, and Jane gets it on the website. So what do you do with it then, Jane, in terms of making more of it?
Well, straight away it gets published just as a post on Twitter and LinkedIn and everything. And then we tend to put it into any further plans that they've got, so that the whole blog will go out again, say in a month, and then perhaps again in another 3 months or so. But then the other thing you can do about it is create actual posts from it. So you can take a little snippet from your blog, write a post around it, but then link back to the main blog. And then you can, go a little bit further down, another paragraph, take a piece out of that, again, write a post around that bit and link back to the main blog again. And if you do that sort of right at the start, and you can schedule those out over the next few weeks, and you can get, 10, 15 posts out of just the one blog, if it's long enough and it's got enough interesting points in it. So they're really useful ways of creating content.
Amanda, I know you were talking to one of your clients that they'd asked you a question about when you're sharing links in on LinkedIn, I think it was specifically, and it was a conversation around the social media platforms want to keep you in platform. They don't actually want you going elsewhere.
Yeah. So
I think you shared a bit of advice about how you can use the stuff within the content as well.
Yes. So, as Jane said, don't let your content just be a one-hit wonder. It's not just a case of you've written a blog or an article, you post it once, then off you go. And LinkedIn in particular, because bearing in mind there's so much content and noise on there, that if somebody doesn't go on there for a day, there's a strong chance they'll miss what you've put. So, in fact, it came up in a webinar we were doing yesterday to say, pick out a stat. If there's a stat in there, share that. If there's a key benefit in there, share that. Ask a question around it as well. So you're trying to keep people in the platform, asking for feedback as well, asking questions as part of it, not just kind of here's our latest blog on, kind of what's your experience with this, or we're introducing X, Y, and Z. How have you done that? What's your feedback?
Yeah, I was on I did a one-off coaching call with someone yesterday who's in insurance, of all things. And he's really actually quite a prolific poster on social media, but everything he puts out, and it's really good content, it's very rarely his own. But the content he was putting out was very much, here, have a look at this, here, why don't you see that? He wasn't really inviting commentary, he wasn't inviting opinion. I think everyone loves to give opinion, but it's this kind of very British thing. It's almost like they want permission first. So we have to ask for it. And I said to him, you just need to shift the way that you're putting this stuff forward and actually ask for that opinion. And the first few times you're asking for it, you're probably not going to get any responses. But after a while, and it only takes 1 or 2 people to start to comment, and all of a sudden, actually, they're going to comment more and more. And, when you see a post and there's loads of comments there, or even just a couple of comments there, it's almost like you're more intrigued by the comments. And so you want to dive in again, which obviously helps with the overall reach. I know we do, with ours, actually, we probably, I'm going to blame it on Emily because she's not here. So Emily probably hasn't been pulling as much out recently in terms of stats and quotes and things from our articles, and then putting them on branded images and pushing them out that way. So there's actually no link within the post. It's just just an image with a bit of text or something like that. But it's reinforcing the messages within that content. And all those things, we've talked about asset libraries for our clients before, and pulling quotes from their website that goes onto a branded image that can be used again and again in the future as well. We're building up a bit of a library of those sort of media items. So I think there's quite a bit that we can do in that sense. I do also think, though, that, and Pam, this might tie into some of your more kind of your sort of the local businesses. I don't mean local businesses to Daventry, but the businesses operating on local scales, where it's almost like the content feeds the other way. So there's perhaps been a photo or a video in the store or whatever that's gone onto social, but actually we need to then get them to write a blog around that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like the content feeds up the other way as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite important. One of the things we've started doing is, we had a podcast years ago, and then that kind of fell away, and we kind of started it up again, but there was a very specific reason for why we did that, and it was part of sort of taking my personal brand forward in sort of 2019, just to kind of like elevate my presence. And then we kind of fell off that again. We didn't do it intentionally. It was just like we'd got so much stuff going on, it just ended up being at the bottom of the list. So we've just relaunched that again. But one of the ways that we're repurposing the content is like the recording for this will go onto the podcast, so people will be able to listen to the audio version, which means we've got to be better at not talking about stuff that happens on screen, which is going to be really tricky. I haven't figured out how we're going to do that one yet. But also the blogs that we do now, quite often the blogs actually start out with me doing a bit of a rant into my voice recorder thing. So I'm actually now, rather than me doing that voice recording, I'm putting it through this tool called Otter to get the transcription. I mean, I'm going to do that as well, but I'm actually now going to use the recording for a podcast episode as well. So it's not going to be like me reading the blog. It is actually me blurting out whatever crap comes out of my mouth.
So
but
ranting.
I know. So
has it got automatic bleep out on it?
but I think I've got to be really careful, because otherwise we're not going to be able to afford the editing costs.
X-rated podcast.
Yeah. Parental guidance podcast.
I'm going to try really hard to be a good girl. But like I said, even with that, if you think like that, this video, we're doing the live stream, we can download the video afterwards, we could have it transcribed, it could go out as a blog, we could have it chopped up into different bits that go out as social media posts. It's live streaming on Facebook, but actually we take the recording, we put it on YouTube as well, we put it on Instagram TV. So it's kind of like there's all these different bits we can do with it. We could take, 15-second, should something funny happen at some point, we could take a 15-second cut out of it, and we could use that on TikTok even. It's kind of like there's just loads of different ways of cutting things up. What's wrong, Pam? Are you too old for TikTok?
I said, don't put me on TikTok. I failed this morning, please.
I've been doing a lot of research into TikTok at the minute, and all I've really discovered is that it's a fantastically powerful way for me to lose 45 minutes watching nothing.
Oh, it is such a time vampire.
I'm
It's
like,
terrible.
my days. I'm like, literally, I've put it. So some people only have like a page or a couple of pages of apps on their phone. I've got about 6 pages, and mine are all really organised. And I've got like folders of apps and all that sort of stuff. I've literally put TikTok on the last page now.
Sorry.
Oh, Amanda's dog's barking in the background. All right, she's on mute. That's how we like her. Oh dear. But no, like I said, I think it's really interesting how many different ways we can kind of split the content down now. And especially if you think about the video and the audio content, there's loads of tools and things out there where you can, I say even with audio, you could take the little voice clip and have it playing over some sort of image or a bit of stock video or whatever. And actually it's really easy to do. And it creates something from a social media perspective that really stands out, and it's just really noticeable. And it's this thing again of creating credibility and adding value. And Jane says you write a blog and you post it on LinkedIn. Did I say blog then instead of blog? Or did I say it right? I feel like I'm doing all the talking and I'm getting.
You said it right. I think. Right. Don't panic.
You post your blog on LinkedIn, you kind of think, it's out there, I've done it now. But only 5% of the people you're connected with maybe are going to see that. So what if I post it again in 3 days time, I'm just going to be boring people sharing the same content again and again. Or that's what people are saying to us. We're like, no, different people are going to see it. Post it at different times of the day. Pick another bit, talk about another paragraph within that blog and pick up one of the other points, use a different image with it maybe, you know. And it's like there's so many, we put all this effort into creating content, but we end up in a place where we keep kind of trying to reinvent the wheel.
So when you talk about repurposing content, it's not just a case of, well, one article or one video creates multiple social media posts. It's the fact that we can use one post or one video is, it like you say, it can go on Instagram, it can go go on YouTube. There's so many places it can go. And one of the things I was chatting about is kind of testing what works. So it's almost like A/B testing. People might be familiar with that, where you test different subject lines in emails. You can use the same content but introduce it in a different way and see which has the biggest reach for you and has the biggest impact, so you can start to replicate that.
That's a good idea, yeah.
Absolutely. So the other thing with repurposing content that I think people almost forget about, and that's keeping your content alive. So I was on a call, I can't remember when it was. It's only Thursday, we're on a 4-day week. It was definitely this week, and I can't tell you when this call was. It's bad, isn't it? But basically in this conversation, the person, they were giving me an example, and they were like, in your business, if you were going to ask, why would someone use a marketing agency? And I kind of thought, I need to write a blog with that title. Now, when I have an idea like that, probably 18 months ago, I'd have just gone and written that blog. Whereas now, I wrote it down, but the first thing I did was went to our website and did a search for that to see what came up. And literally, we've got a blog that I did 18 months ago that is near enough word for word the same title, but instead of it saying marketing agency, it said social media agency. And you kind of think, well, I've written that blog already, but maybe I need to just look at it from an SEO perspective and tweak some of the language in there to cover that off. Now, because that article's only 18 months old anyway, I probably wouldn't look at sort of, rewriting it as a fresh article now, because it's not very old. But if it had been 4 or 5 years old, I definitely would have been going, right, that article, I'm going to do a complete rewrite on and put out again as a fresh bit of content. It's like every week we're trying to think of something new to produce. Every day you think, what am I going to post today? What am I going to post today? But we forget to look at our back catalogue of content.
Our greatest hits.
Right, yeah.
When you talk about a back catalogue, it just made me think of your greatest hits. Put them all together.
See, what I was thinking when you were speaking there is that you sort of, you go in a conversation. There's something that I wish I could do better, is that, you come up with a blog title once you're speaking to in a conversation when people are asking questions. And that's what I don't do that often enough. Do you know what I mean? It's not a natural thing where I go, oh, that's a blog title. It's the moment's gone. That's so train my brain better for that one.
But you've been watching quite a few sort of webinars and things like that recently, haven't you? So like when so like the Facebook shop stuff came out, last week, end of last week? So you've been watching webinars on that sort of ever since, just to sort of pick, how are people talking about it? What are the findings, that kind of stuff. When I'm watching those webinars, I have little thoughts to myself, because quite often, this is going to sound really big-headed, but when you watch a webinar and it's on your subject, it's like 80% of what's in the webinar you already know, and you in your head you kind of go, oh, that's an interesting way that they phrase that, or they say it, and it makes you think something specifically. And actually now, when I'm having those thoughts, I write those things down, and they become blogs, or they become content pieces as well. So, everyone, irrelevant of, our world is changing all the time. So we constantly need to be on webinars and things like that. There's a social media summit happening today, and literally my laptop is now on the floor down there, and I've just put it on silent because I've been listening into a like a Facebook personal branding webinar, and there's been a LinkedIn webinars just gone on as part of that social media summit. Now, the LinkedIn one, she hasn't talked about anything that I don't know or anything I haven't talked about. But you know, we talk about LinkedIn profiles magnetizing, and you know, do you have a magnetizing LinkedIn profile, or are you repelling people? And she's used a different analogy. Why are you laughing?
It's like it sounds like
Repelling people.
Repelling people.
It is.
That's the LinkedIn profile.
I didn't.
Are you a repellent?
Yeah, I'm pretty repellent someday, I tell you.
Not the aim, surely, for anyone to repel people with their LinkedIn.
But no, you know, so I was kind of going, well, you know, actually, you know, everything that was being talked about in that LinkedIn session is stuff where I'm going, yeah, I've written a blog on that, I've written a blog on that. You know, they've used that analogy, we use this analogy, and that kind of stuff. And actually, there was one point in that hour and a half session, and I kind of went, oh, that's interesting. And they've just explained it in a different way to the way that I explain it. Something that I think is less important, they think is more important. Now, because I think it's less important, I've never written about. So there's something called an SSI score on LinkedIn. And for me, it's one of those things where it gives your personal profile, your personal presence on LinkedIn a score out of 100, okay? And for me, I've never really been that interested in it, because you only get so far. And if you want to get into like the high 80s, into the 90s, you need to be paying for LinkedIn. Well, actually, our target audience, our ideal client, their marketing budgets are actually really small. So they need to be getting their content right. They need to be getting their presence right, rather than just, you know, chucking money at LinkedIn so that they can send a few more cold emails that we know won't convert anyway. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I've always been a bit kind of, what's the word when you're like,
cynical. Are you cynical?
Cynical, yeah. I was a bit cynical about it. Mm. So, but you know, that part of that webinar, there was a whole section on that, and I thought, well, actually, maybe we should, you know, maybe I should do a blog on that and explain the different elements of it, and my personal feeling on it, because it's something that it's probably got a mention here and there, but I don't think we've ever done anything specifically on it, and I don't think I've ever even included it in any of our webinars or anything. And just because that's what I think and feel doesn't necessarily mean that that's then something we shouldn't share with our audience. So I've gone down a little rabbit hole now. Why would you think about that?
Well, we've had some questions while you're chatting.
Going on.
Or your name has also changed now from being Cuddly Christina to Repellent Robinson, which I think
is quite fitting. That one might actually stick.
All the tools and apps and things that we recommend, the question is, do we have a place on the website where people can go and find those? And I know that we used to, but again, that was probably one of our greatest hits. It's worth us revisiting.
So I am in the process of writing that list. So I started writing that list a while ago, and then there was like 150 things on the list. And then we stopped using things and started using other things. And so it's become a bit of a beast. So at one point I was like, well, let's do like an ebook. But then I went off that idea because we'd have to update it so much. And then I have had some other ideas on it, but I haven't told Mark about them yet because I know how busy he is.
I've got an idea how you can present it.
Have you?
Yeah, I think so. Don't want to divulge in public at the moment in case it's rubbish.
Don't give away our secrets.
No, it's nothing particularly. It'd just be on the website, but it'd just be a way of making it work. That was all.
So yeah, it's almost like producing a catalogue of tools and tips, because we had like a listing on there previously, but there were only ever like 10 or 15 things on there. And funnily enough, it wasn't a page that got a lot of visits. So not this time, not when we redid the website this time, but I think a few years ago when we sort of went through a bit of a rebrand then, we kind of lost it. It was part of the original green umbrella, and we had this this toolkit. But I have been looking at bringing that out again, because it's stuff like we get asked all the time, you know, where should we be going to get images? Well, every time I'm asked that question, I can generally think of 3 or 4 off the top of my head. But I know that, you know, there's about 10, 15 websites that we could send people to where they can get high quality, interesting, non-clip arty, copyright free, royalty free images. But like I said, when you put it on the spot, you think about 2.5 of them.
There's a few bits and bobs in the Bamboozleds and Brown boxes that do cover some of that sort of thing, but they tend to be a bit more how-tos. But there are, you know, some tools and bits and bobs in there as well.
We always have the tool of the week, which sounds like an insult, I think. So this week's tool of the week.
That's meant to be just an internal award.
You know, we should actually, people that are engaged in our coaching club, they get an email every week that
that's what I'm thinking of.
And within that, there is a tool of the week. Now, what we should actually do is one week just put like one of our headshots in there, just for a laugh, and see if we get any responses.
You volunteering?
Yeah, is it going to be?
Yeah, I volunteer, Mark. No, I don't know.
But no, I do think that's really useful because it's always quite on topic as well. So last week was Mental Health Awareness Week. Obviously, we had Cheryl on as part of the lunch, and the tool of the week was a meditation app, I think, or a sort of calming meditation app. So that again tied in nicely with Mental Health Awareness Week. So, so yeah, there's like you said, there's loads out there, but they do change quite a lot.
Yeah, and it's, you know, these tools kind of come out and they're free to start off with. And they're free and there's a paid version, and then they start to reduce what you get on the free options. So, you know, Hootsuite is something that I still think is the best option for a lot of sort of, you know, small businesses and startup businesses. But I can see in like 2 years' time, it's not going to be anymore because there just won't be enough functionality in that free version. Now, you know, to upgrade and pay for it, it's not a lot of money, but when your marketing budget is a £5 a month and that tool's like 30 quid a month, it's a big spend, you know, and you know, if you're in literally like, you know, day 1, day 2, week 1, week 2 of your business, you've got to keep all of those costs at the bare minimum. And all these bits, you know, we've talked about the stuff we've been doing with our webinars, and you know, every time you add another bit on, there's another bit of software, and you think, well, it's only a tenner, it's only 20 quid, it's only 30 quid, but all of a sudden it's a couple of £100.
Yeah,
you know, and it all really adds up.
I always think that you get these free things, and then like the first level up, you think, oh, that's okay, I'm going to get a lot more for it, but you actually don't. It's always the premium plus version that's got all the good tools, and that's when it gets really expensive, isn't it? It's never that first one that you pay for that you go, oh, I'll get loads from that. You don't normally, do you?
And I think a lot of people get caught out with the you know, it's like there's an annual fee versus a monthly fee.
Yeah.
So, you know, we've had a few clients where they've kind of like, they've started using a tool, paid for the upgrade, and then, you know, because you know what happens, you end up with 20 apps on your phone and you're only using 2 of them, and all of a sudden there's like, you know, 120 quid's gone out their bank account and they don't know why. And it's this app they upgraded and did an put an automatic annual renewal on, and you know, the app's not even on their phone anymore. They just don't know, you know, we've had that a couple of times. People sort of have done that. So like I said, it is difficult because we're constantly changing stuff.
Mm-hmm. That's why I don't pay for anything. It's not because I'm Scottish. It's because I forget to cancel. I'd be going, what the hell is that?
There is a Scottish comment that you'll probably need to look at and raise with Mr. Green next time that you see him.
Oh, what's he said now?
I'll let you see that one. He's invented it, your own social media platform.
It's a good one.
Did I say a word that sounded really Scottish? Is it got to do with that?
No more than normal.
Are there any other questions on there, Amanda? I can't, but it's not coming.
There's one about Otter particularly. So you mentioned that as a tool that is kind of your current favourite.
I bloody love Otter. Otter. What is it? Otter.ai. Otter.ai or Otter.io? I can't remember off the top of my head. Basically, so I'm just using the free version, which allows you to transcribe 600 minutes.
You haven't let me ask the question, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm really excited about it.
Yeah.
Straight in there.
Yeah.
Like an otter in the water. I mean, tell us about Otter, Christina, but also while you're there, the question is, does it just convert audio to text, or does it add subtitle files? So that's quite a good question, actually, because obviously videos now increasingly it's just kind of the thing that's done, the right etiquette to add subtitles onto your videos for a whole host of reasons.
Yeah, so with your subtitles, no, sorry, but there's something called rev.com, rev.com, that you can use to do that. So it's really easy, really, really cheap. It's like, so I can't remember. I need to look up what the current pricing is, but I think even if you want the super fast version, it's only about $1 a minute. So I think the standard is like 79 cents, and that still comes back really quickly. It's really accurate, but basically it gives you a file. So on Facebook, if you uploaded your video, you then upload the SRT file as well, and then it just sorts it out for you. And the same thing on LinkedIn. You go to post, you upload your video, you then get an option to edit that video where you can upload the SRT file again, and that's then your subtitles are there. So you don't have to mess about editing it and putting it all together and that sort of stuff. And like I said, it's for the cost of it, it will save you so much time. All of these tools, not the tools, sorry, like Facebook, for example, you put a video in there, YouTube's the same. There's an auto transcription, but it's not accurate. So if you think the time you spend going in and like retyping the text to pay like let's say it costs you $2, what's that, like £1.70?
Yeah, it depends on the exchange rate, but
it's like, but it's, I don't know, my time's worth more than that. I'd say most people's time's worth more than that. And if you're like me, and actually when it comes to that stuff, you've got zero patience, actually having to listen to yourself and type out what you've said to get it to match and all that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a headache you don't need. So yeah, definitely rev.com for your subtitles. Going back to Otter, like I said, the free account is, you can transcribe up to 600 minutes of audio. You can only upload 3 files now on the free version, which is annoying. But you can hook it up with Zoom, so it will automatically record and transcribe your Zoom calls whilst you're on the call. Or if you're listening to a webinar and you're too lazy to take notes, you could have Zoom, you could have Otter running, and again, when we're back to physical events, if that ever happens, of course it'll happen. I don't know why I said that like that then. Yeah, you could be there watching your speaker with Otter running on your phone or your iPad or whatever, and it'll be transcribing what it hears. So like I say, I think it's fantastic, and it's really accurate, really, really accurate.
That's what I need. I should have used that earlier on this week when I watched that webinar. When I watched it and then you said write a blog, and I was like, oh, I didn't write notes.
This is the other thing as well. Think about all the content you consume and turn that into content. So what was the webinar on? Facebook Shops?
Yeah, it was, I can remember a good chunk of it. And like you said earlier, when you watch a video on something you've already read a load of articles on and you listen to it, you know a lot of the information already. So there's quite a lot of it I was listening to, and I was kind of doing a few other bits, writing notes and stuff about other things. But I didn't write it. And then I said, oh, it was a great webinar. You write a blog on it. And I was like, ooh. Need to watch that again.
It's your own fault. You told me how good it was. Told me how useful it was. I was like, well, there you go. Be useful.
Yeah, so it's
But
like,
this is the thing. It's like, you know, repurposing content is I'm not, you know, don't plagiarize other people's work,
no.
but
no,
every
of course
time
not.
you consume something, you're learning, and you'll have your own slant, your own opinion, and actually that's really strong to be able to kind of put that out again. So, you know, if it's a social media post, that's what you're doing. You've read an article, you shared a link to that article, you put a couple of sentences with your thoughts, your opinion, or you know, inviting people to share their opinion on the topic. Well, actually, a blog is just that in longer form.
Yeah.
You know, if you've done that as a social media post and you've had a few comments come back, then actually that's something that can be turned into a blog article.
Mm.
You know, and you can embed that LinkedIn post into that article as well. You know, we talk about crowdsourced content, but it's the online equivalent of asking your mates in the pub what they think on a certain topic. Just writing that up. People kind of like really overcomplicate this stuff, I think, when actually it can be quite straightforward.
So the best example, I guess, of this that I often use as an analogy is when people say, what should I watch on Netflix now? Because it's always inviting comments. And then, I mean, okay, you probably wouldn't write a blog about it unless it was relevant to your business or you were asking something specific, like what crime drama should I watch now? But it always gets people engagement, even if they know those people that don't really go on Facebook to comment or post their own things, they will put something on there. So that's the best way of crowdsourcing ideas.
Absolutely.
Ask an opinion.
I posted on LinkedIn ages ago about business books. I had people comment that I haven't heard from in years on that post.
Yeah.
The thing is, you could look at those comments and pick out, so obviously, you know, with your background in sort of retail, Pam, you could look at who's commented, and maybe there's 5 people, 10 people on that have commented that are all in retail, and actually there is let's say your target audience is the retail sector. Well, actually, there's something really, really useful and meaningful that you can put out there that's a bit light-hearted. You know, it's so to use Amanda's example, you know, Amanda and I are part of a WhatsApp group, so it's full of recruitment marketers. So shout out to Glenn Seldom and the lonely marketers that are not that lonely, because like since my phone is going mad with all the notifications in that group at the minute. It's like some days there's like over 200 notifications for this WhatsApp group. There's so much conversation, so much real value going on in there. But, you know, we could ask that question, what's everyone watching on Netflix? And actually that becomes a post on LinkedIn, you know, 10 Netflix series recruitment marketers are watching in lockdown. You know, and it's obviously we get a snappier title, maybe, I don't know, but you know, actually it's a bit of nonsense content, if you like, but actually people are going, yeah. How many times have you, like, I don't know, I mean, I've looked at them and it's like 10 movies that every marketer should watch, or you know, Netflix specials that social media people should watch, and that kind of stuff. And it's like, actually, it's not business related, but you identify as being that type of person. So you want to know what it is to be that kind of person, what sort of stuff you should be reading. And
we were talking about this yesterday, Pam, weren't we, with psychometric profiling. So people, they cannot resist if you kind of give a chance to say, well, which one are you? And you know, it can be stupid and fluffy, like which Harry Potter house do you belong to? Or which Disney hero are you, or Marvel superhero are you?
Like how to get engagement, wasn't it? Like,
yeah, basically
everybody stops to do.
Cannot resist because they want to know what they are.
It's like you go. I have got a deadline, but I need to know which Gavin and Stacey character I am. It's like,
so you know, you might, depending on what your industry is, you could tie that in somehow. But that's the sort of thing that you will get loads of it, even if people don't admit it or put their little comment underneath to say, oh, I'm a Hufflepuff and I wished I was Ravenclaw or whatever it was.
I know. And we were trying to get this into like a business sense. We're like, how would this work?
How would
So
we work that? Yeah.
how would we work that so it's not quite silly and it's quite business focused? It's like, which Friends character are you? No, that's not going to work.
Oh no, totally get that. Totally get that. No, it is funny the stuff that makes people engage. LinkedIn has, I don't know how many different blogs now, but one of the blogs is like from the sort of engineering technical team, and they released something. I don't know if we talked about it last week or not. I don't think we did. But there's been another tweak to the algorithm, and they talk about something called dwell time. And it's about, when you're scrolling through your LinkedIn feed and you kind of like something half catches your eye and you sort of scroll past that thing a bit slower, or you click onto a post and there's that, you dwell on it before you take an action. Now that action might be to click on the link, it might be to leave a comment, it might be to actually leave, go back to your feed, whatever it might be. But this is now one of the many triggers, if you like, within the LinkedIn algorithm that decides who sees what. Now, personally, I don't think it makes any difference. If you're putting crap content out before, people are going to swipe past it. And, so actually what difference does it make? Either you're going to choose to put good content out that's going to engage people, or you're going to carry on doing what you did before. So, my feeling is it shouldn't actually make a difference to anyone we're working with, because they will do what we've told them and their content will be amazing. But, there's this thing, you actually, you're thinking about the stuff that goes past, and the video that I shared in the coaching group, the live stream I did in the coaching group last night, which I've been accused by a certain Mr. Robinson for like being a bit ranty. But basically, over the last few weeks, we've had all these words that keep appearing and people are using them left, right and centre, and you're seeing them in your feeds constantly, and you get to a point where you just, you don't register the word pivot anymore. You keep scrolling and unprecedented has passed you 20 times and you haven't even seen it. And I think bounce back is going to be that's the next thing now.
The new normal. That's my bugbear at the moment. Oh,
I've used it on a few posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, to start with, it kind of feels okay because you feel like you're the only one, then everyone starts doing it, and just they're not in vogue anymore.
It's in vogue.
No.
Need to get in vogue.
But I do think it's like, when you think about the dwell time stuff, it is going to be, actually, are we using the same language that everyone else is using, that people are just going to be blind to? And I think probably now, because of the situation we're in with COVID, we have to be more aware of that. If I'm scrolling through something and the word COVID if I'm scrolling through Facebook or LinkedIn or Twitter and the word COVID is in the title, I'm just not interested. I don't watch literally, it's like I get my BBC Breaking News notification that whoever from down the street's going live, and I give it 45 minutes, and then I go to BBC News and check the, like the timestamp headlines. That's it. That's how I'm getting my news right now on that. Everything else, I'm just completely switched off to from a COVID perspective, because I'm bored of it. And that's speaking as an individual, and maybe I shouldn't share that publicly, but there's so much other stuff going on, and, I'm a busy girl. So, it's just, I just think we need to think marketing wise, actually, what are people just blind to right now? What are they going to be blind to? And it is, again, repurposing your content to bring it back to the theme. Some of the stuff that we've put out over the last few weeks, some of the webinars we've written, we will repurpose in that we'll go through and we'll edit them and take COVID-19 out of it so that we can use it, in 6 months, 12 months time. Because actually, the information we've been sharing, we were sharing anyway, and we will be sharing anyway in the future. So it is just kind of like that repurposing and constantly making sure that things are relevant for the now.
Yeah, I agree.
Working smarter.
I'm always working hard though. We're
Yeah.
always working hard. It's not all about me. It is. It is about me. But yeah. Okay. So on that note, have you guys got anything else to add for today?
I've got a couple of other things really. It's not just repurposing your own content, but repurposing your own data. So if people have asked you questions just on the phone or anywhere else, you can always turn them into an FAQ page, or just individual FAQs that you put out as posts, but also your own internal data that you've had about campaigns you've run or anything else. You can turn them into case studies as well, and then you can share that, and then people may see what you've done and find that interesting. So there were just another couple of bits you could do.
Love that idea. Kind of, it's like you say, you could do we did this campaign and we were blown away by the results, or we did this campaign, it totally bombed. Here are the lessons that we've learned.
Yeah, definitely.
You shouldn't replicate. So
I think that's one of the things we've always been really bad at ourselves, is actually producing case studies of the work. We've done some fantastic pieces of work, and some, got some really, really, really cool results. But because we kind of keep everything, so Amanda's just had someone appear in the background, and her face just went really embarrassed. You should probably tell him he's being live streamed to the world. What do you reckon? Oh, it'll be fine. Carry on. Oh, busted. That's so funny.
You're live on Facebook, dear. I don't care. I need to come and use the office. Sorry, folks. Wouldn't be a live lunch or webinar without a guest appearance from either the dog or the husband.
Yeah. There you go. But yeah, I think because the way that we work with our clients, we don't want them to shout about the fact that they're using us, because we want their audience to really 100% believe it's them and create that level of authenticity and credibility for their brand. So we then don't often create case studies around it, because we don't want to shout about the fact that it's us and not them, which is a bit backward, really. So that's what I like about this, is I think every time we've done one of these now, there's been something that's been added to my list. I don't like that bit. I don't like things being added to my list, but I think there's been something where I've gone, yeah, actually we really do need to pin down and work on that for ourselves now as well. So yeah, that's a fab one, Jane. Cool. Okie dokie, let's draw it to a close there, because I know you've all got, Amanda needs to go and write some more words, and Owen needs to use the office, so we better disappear.
Sorry, folks. It's far more pressing, clearly.
Cool. Right. So yeah, goodbye from us, and we'll see you next Thursday, and we'll be chatting again. We might even have a guest with us next Thursday, so we're working on that at the minute. But yeah, see everyone soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.